I've got a 2018 991.2 Porsche 911. Been running it for about 6,500 miles with a stock exhaust. I decided to upgrade to a SOUL Performance Products exhaust system, which includes sport cats and X-pipe. We'll do an install video here, show a step-by-step process what it takes to get it installed and get it on the car running. So hope you'll enjoy. Here's the car in question. I've got it up on the lift. I removed the rear wheels just to give myself a little bit better access. SOUL advises there's no need to remove the rear bumper, so I'm going to leave that on. It looks like that should be pretty workable. Components with the street package include the X-pipe. This one's got the anti-drone tubes built in, so nobody wants drones, so hopefully that'll be a nice addition. And then the sport cats to replace the stock cats. SOUL says those are about 14 horsepower gain on the dyno, so looking forward to getting that on there. Here's a look at the stock system I'm replacing with the cats and the mufflers, and be reusing the same tips. Obviously be cleaning those up a little bit, but nice access coming at it from underneath on the lift. We'll get started now. First step is to remove this heat shield from the turbo and the catalytic converter. That takes a T30 bolt, and there's a couple bolts for those to take off. All right, I got the first heat shield off. Got 4 Torx bolts there. Not too bad to get off. 3 of them are pretty easily accessible. It's very tight working up here within the heat shield. There's one bolt that goes in right back here. You got to come over the top and get to it. It's very difficult to reach, so it's gonna be a real bear getting it back in there, but we'll see how that goes. On to the other side. This last heat exchanger bolt on the passenger side is very difficult to get to. I came in through the wheel well, and you can see I can get my extension through there and get the socket on there, so I can get that one out and get this last heat shield removed. Okay, got the second heat shield off. Now I can move on. Okay, next step calls for a 12 millimeter wrench to loosen the catalytic converter from the turbo. We got 4 bolts there, so we'll take those off. Do that for each side. All right, that step was quite easy. Next thing we're going to do is disconnect both these oxygen sensors with a 22 millimeter wrench. They definitely go in a specific hole, so I'm going to mark the forward and aft one when I take them out on both sides, so I can make sure to get them back in the right spot. All right, next thing I want to do is I've got the muffler supported. I'm going to use a 6 millimeter Allen and loosen these straps that are holding the muffler in place. We're about ready to pull this old system down. Okay, next thing we got is these 2 little vacuum actuated devices here. So you can just pull this vacuum hose off. One done, and one to go over here. Got a buddy come over to help me. We're starting to work this thing out. It's quite a heavy. It's all going to come out in one piece, so probably more than a one-man job. If you're taking this off by yourself, it's difficult. We're wedging it out. Really starting to think I should have taken the bumper off, but so far we're making it without, so we'll see how it works out. Success. I was able to get the old system out. It was right at 41 pounds. The new system's 28.6 pounds, so about 12.5 pound gain there. It was really tight getting it out with the bumper still attached. Ended up loosening this joint here, which gave us some play between the cat and the muffler, which really helped to work it off, work the studs out of their holes here on the turbos. So I got the oxygen sensors hanging. We'll put those back in. These vacuum assist portions that were on the old exhaust are not going to be used, so we're just going to tie those off on both sides per SOUL's instructions, and we can start the assembly process now. So a lot more room up here now, and I feel like the new one will be easier to get in because it's quite a bit smaller and less bulky, so that should be nice. Okay, I got the new SOUL system laid out next to the old one, just getting everything aligned properly, and then I'll be ready to put it back on the car. The muffler area versus the X-pipe area is quite a bit smaller, so it should be a lot easier to fit up in there in the available space, get everything back hooked up. These flanges here that hook up to the turbos actually have nut and bolts, so there's one stud that remains on the turbo there, and then you'll use 3 nut and bolt sets for the other holes to mate it back up. Making some progress. I've got the cats mounted up on both sides and the X-pipe installed. Still need to hook up the O2 sensors. Got to call into SOUL this area here. the clamps. This thing stands off a little bit, so I'm going to see what the solution is to that, and then I'll have the pieces to come in here for the exhaust outlets. So they're actually sending me some new exhaust outlets, so I won't be able to crank it today anyways. It came back out to work a little bit. I got this mounted up. Actually, now I need to loosen these clamps. You kind of have to get it together loosely, then put it all on there. Then you can start tightening on both the sides of the sport cats, and then you can loosen this back up and rotate this back that way into position, put the retaining clamps on there, and then tighten it all down, and then you'll be able to put the exit port piece coming on out to the pipe. So I'm gonna work on that a little bit now. All right, got those clamps put in, got these tightened up both sides. Now I can move on to installing the O2. Got the car back together pretty much, and the wheels back on it. Put the oxygen sensors on. As I mentioned earlier, the space in there is limited, so I just buy a cheapy wrench and grind it down and grind the head down so you can get it in there. Because you can see this standoff here makes it a little tight to access that one up there. So it's considerably easier spending the $6 and having the right tool for the job. Then I was able to get the heat shields installed back on, just opposite of taking those off, same 4 holes. A little tricky to get them in there, but not really a problem. This clamp in here allows you to have some play with rotating the exhaust outlet to get it positioned just appropriately for the tips. So you can mess around with that a little bit to get it positioned right where you're going to want it to install the tips. My car is a little unique, and then I've got the Carrera S model without the PSE. Most purchasers opt for the PSE exhaust, which I did not. So that left us with the issue where the exhaust tips line up off center. So I've been talking with SOUL about that, and they've actually stepped up and they're sending me some new exhaust tips to use. So this pretty much completes the installation. Simply once the new exhaust tips come, I'll just put them in place. They'll be centered up nicely and tighten it down, and then we'll be ready for the test fire. And kind of here's a view of the final installation from underneath here. You can see it. Very nice looking pipe. Looking forward to cranking this thing up. It's a lot roomier in here than it was with the standard muffler. Like I said, putting it back in was quite a bit easier with the added space you had available to work your hands up there and so forth. So once you get it off, the hard part's over with, and get it in, it's pretty easy. I'd say the trickiest part of the whole job is the number 4 bolt on the heat shield that I talked about easier. After that, it's more or less simply bolt and unbolt. And I'm not a super experienced mechanic. I do have fair amount of experience, but it's definitely a doable DIY project for your average shade tree mechanic. Got everything installed and make a few sound clips. I made some before clips, and I'll make some after clips with my decibel meter. Not very scientific, but at least give you an idea of the before and after sound. All right, I'm gonna get some decibel readings on the cold start for the 991.2 with the stock non-PSE exhaust. All right, I'm gonna do a cold start with the SOUL Performance exhaust. I say it's a cold start. It's 90 degrees out here, so I don't know if that counts. Here we go. Okay, and this is after the idle stabilizes. Interior noise at idle with the stock non-PSE exhaust. A couple revs. 4,000 RPM, 70. All right, here is interior noise at idle. And we'll rev it to 4,000 like we did previously with before. Okay, I just made a few video clips of it just driving around, both from inside the car, and had my wife take a few from the outside just so you can get a general feel for how it sounds. I'm quite pleased with it. Just a little bit louder. It has a nice aggressive sound to it, but not annoyingly loud. So really pleased with it. Really pleased with the install. I think it's a good purchase. I'm glad I did it. And I think if you're interested in getting one, you should definitely check it out. It's a good system.